Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 155. Shizun, are you shocked? The grand wedding of the young master of the Rufeng sect was drawing closer and closer. But suddenly, rumors began to spread among the guests of the various sects. Young Master Zhang, I learned something recently. At first, the rumors sounded outrageous, but if you think about it carefully, 8 out of 10 rumors tend to be true. Do you want to listen? What a coincidence, I also have a secret here. It is about the Rufeng sect and it's also shocking. It can't be that you want to talk about the same thing. The other party raised his eyebrows meaningfully and asked, is the secret that Master Zhang knows related to only 2 people? Indeed. Both of them exchanged glances. One of them lowered his voice and said, let's talk about mine first. I heard that Ye Wangzi from the Rufeng sect and... When the other person heard this, he could not hold it in any longer. The young master's elegant demeanor dissipated. Laughing out loudly, he slapped his thigh, his eyes flashing with the radiance of the gossip, and he said excitedly, right, right. Ha ha ha, I laughed to death about it, but that's what I heard. Ye Wangzi of the Rufeng sect has an affair with Song Kaiyutong. Truly, good things never go out of doors but bad things spread far and wide. Who would have thought that even the young master, who doesn't like to listen to gossip, also knew about this? But talk about it in a softer voice. This is Lin Yi, wherever we go, we will bump into people from the Rufeng sect. Those who go to Rufeng sect believe that the walls have ears. It was hard to tell whether there were really ears on the wall, but 3 men talking make a tiger. This thing was like cotton wool soaked in water, gradually swelling. Even if no one saw it with their own eyes, the content would be getting more and more exciting and alluring. Note, 3 men talking make a tiger, is an idiom which means when repeated more than twice, a rumor becomes true. In the end, even those ordinary villagers outside Lin Yi, who did not cultivate, became aware of the rumors as it continuously spread around. Brother Gauden, I'm going to tell you a secret, don't tell anyone else. What is the secret? Don't be so sneaky, tell me. You know my mouth, it definitely won't reveal anything. Then you better listen up. There's a huge scandal in the Rufeng sect. That Song Kaiyutong, you know, the woman who is about to marry the young master Nangongsi, is really a slut. Although Brother Gauden doesn't know it, she has long been stabbing her fiancé in the back and had been having an affair with Ye Wangzi. Heavens, how is this possible? How is it impossible? Didn't you know that back then, when Song Kaiyutong was taken out for auction in Xianyuan Pavilion, Ye Wangzi was the one who saw her beauty and stirred up those nasty thoughts, buying her for dual cultivation? Li Gauden was extremely shocked. His mouth was wide open and he squatted for a long time before he stuttered, heavens, heavens. How could there be such a thing? The villager Li Qiudan's perception was turned upside down, and when he went to bed that night, he put his arm around his wife and chatted, lamenting, Chunyua, you're still the best. His wife, Zhao Chunyua, blinked, what's wrong? Why are you suddenly talking like this? You see, although you are a little ugly, a little bit fat and a little bit short, you are diligent and fertile, unlike some women who would steal men behind their husbands' back and disobey the rules of women. Zhao Chunyua was a bit annoyed. How am I ugly? Isn't my face just a bit tanned? Then she became curious, which wife has had an affair? Is it someone I know? It's not from the villages, it's from the cultivation sect who fly here and there on their swords all day long. Zhao Chunyua was taken aback, who is it? Li Gauden said, whoever was about to get married in the upper cultivation world. That will be the one. Subconsciously, Zhao Chunyua did not think about Nangongsi. After a long while, she suddenly understood, and suddenly jumped out of the bed and sat up, oh my god, that's crazy. There's such a thing? Don't spout nonsense. Why would I speak nonsense? Li Gaodan straightened his chest and vowed to make his wife believe in him more. A friend of mine saw it with his own eyes. Ye Wangzi from the Rufeng sect committed adultery with Song Kaiyutong. Those two have slept together behind Nangong Si's back a long time ago. Amorous love between men and women is often one of the fastest things to spread in the world. Both the rich and the poor like having such things as topic of conversation. In a blink of an eye, the guests gathered at the Rufeng sect knew all about the scandal more or less. When it reached the ears of Chu Wanning, its content has already sprouted full wings and excessiveness that it was being said that the tryst between Ye Wangzi and Song Quitong happened on a certain year, a certain month, and a certain day. It was also being said that Song Kaiyutong had already married Nangong Si at this time because she already had Ye Wangzi's child, but Ye Wangzi was being unreasonable and unwilling to recognize the mother and son so as not to ruin his own future. If you don't believe me, just wait and watch. When the child is born, see if the child looks like Nangong Si or Ye Wangzi. Chu Wanning understood and knew Nangong Si, but he didn't know Ye Wangzi and Song Kaiyutong. Thus, he was not sure if what the rumor said was true or false, and only felt very indignant. However, for someone like him who is only good with dealing well-defined evil, he is at a loss as to what to do when it comes to the complicated matters involving relationships between men and women. That day, when Nangong Si came to visit him in his courtyard, Chu Wanning faintly hit him on the head. However, he could not determine if there's anything that could be gleaned behind his words. He was happily telling Grandmaster Chu the story of how he raised his snow-white fey wolf Nao Beijing. It was bred a few days ago, and everything went well. The female demon wolf will give birth next month. I don't know how many little wolf cubs can be born in this litter. Nangong Si smiled, once they come out and if there is a good quality, I will ask my father to send one to Shisheng Peak. Chu Wanning heard this and thought this was a good opportunity, so he said, yes, but I'm afraid that the wolf cub's lineage is not pure. How could it not be pure? Both Nao Beijing and the mother demon wolf were cultivated by the Snow Wolf clan. They are extremely pure. Are you certain that the mother demon wolf has not been bred with any other demonic wolves before? Nangong Si was stunned for a moment and exclaimed, how can it be? The mother wolf is raised at the Baitan Manor. There is only one in the entire manor. She wants to be matched but could not find anyone worthy and could only rely on our family's Nao Beijing. Chu Wanning felt that he had accurately depicted the situation. He understood that he was comparing people to wolves but he had implied that Nangong Si should pay attention to those rumors. How could he not understand? Chu Wanning thought for a while, felt that maybe he hadn't said it too well, thought it over, and said, although Baitan Manor has only one demon wolf when it was taken over to breed with Nao Beijing, it must have stayed in the Rufeng sect for a while, right? You have raised so many demon wolves in here, do you think that? No, no. Nangong Si laughed heartily. Was Grandmaster Chu worried about this? The female demon wolf and Nao Beijing were locked in the same cage together. There is no chance for other demon wolves to do anything. You're stupid, forget it. Nangong Si did not see the gloom on Chu Wanning's face at all. He got up and invited Chu Wanning and said, Grandmaster, when you left, Xiaoya courtyard had not been built. Now it has been expanded twice. I will take you there to take a look over there and to ride on Nao Beijing, would you like that? I'm not going. Chu Wanning replied. Nangong Si looked a little disappointed, why? Except for horses, I don't know how to ride anything else. Chu Wanning said, you are going to be a husband soon. Don't be too playful. You are either raising wolf cubs all day long or training on the school grounds. You should also go back and accompany Miss Song. People and animals are the same. If you don't accompany her, the relationship between you two will become strained. No, Kaiyutong treats me very well and is very obedient. If Grandmaster Chu thinks I've neglected her, I'll call her along. I often mention you to her. She was also looking forward to meeting you. Hearing him said that, Chu Wanning thought to himself, he didn't know much about Song Kayutong, and he couldn't determine if the rumors were true or false. To be able to know more about this young couple before Nangongsi was going to get married, it might be a good thing to meet her. Thus, he nodded his head and stood up. All right. Then go and find her. I'll wait for you at Xiaoya courtyard. Nangongsi left. When he was walking out of the courtyard door, he happened to meet Mo Ran. The two saluted each other in front of the wall. Mo Ran made his way into the courtyard and saw Chu Wanning standing under the sweet-scented osmanthus tree with a red clay stove in front of him that was steaming with water mist. There were 2 half-drunk 8 treasure tea on the stone table. Shizun, did Nangongsi came to see you? I'm going to Xiaoya courtyard to take a look at the demon wolves he's raising. As Chu Wanning spoke, he turned around and prepared to return to the room. It's inconvenient to ride in this outfit, I'll change my clothes. The demon wolf Fei was ferocious. Although Mo Ran knew Chu Wanning was capable, he was still worried about letting him go alone. Thus, he said, I will go with Shizun. Chu Wanning stopped when he heard him and glanced at him sideways. Do you know how to ride a wolf Fei? Mo Ran smiled, and his black eyes were very bright. Why not? I am good at riding horses, not to mention riding wolves, I'm good at riding everything. Chu Wanning wanted to make fun of him, but he suddenly realized that his choice of words I'm good at riding everything was a bit vague and ambiguous. He couldn't help but think of the scene in his erotic dreams as it flashed in front of him, the posture of the two. The sweat dripping down their body and the powerlessness of his body propelled by Mo Ran while lying on the bed. It was as if he had really become a plaything under Mo Ran's body, being toyed by him. Chu Wanning's face turned red. He cursed under his breath, shameless. It was unknown if he was scolding Mo Ran or himself. He turned around and slammed the door and entered the room, leaving only the half-rolled curtain outside the door slightly swaying in the wind, like the person with a trembling heart who hid inside. Xiaoya courtyard was a vast expanse of grasslands. That day, the sky was filled with freezing cold smog, the vegetation was bleak and a thin layer of frost blanketed the top of the greenish-yellow field. Winter hung considerately in the sky, but because of the clouds covering it, it seemed a little frosty. The sun was shining perfunctory at best and thus, lifeless. Nevertheless, at the end was a private hunting jungle with dense trees and cypresses, fluffy cactuses, and a layer of golden yellow from a distance, looking like fluffy and soft feathers of young birds. Nangongsi was standing in front of the wooden fence, talking to Song Kayutong. He suddenly saw 2 people walking through the mist. It was Chu Wanning and Mo Ran. They were startled slightly, and then he smiled and called out, Grandmaster Mo, are you worried about handing your Shizun over to me, so you came as well? Not really. Mo Ran also laughed. I followed here because I'm afraid that if Shizun meets with any troubles and is unable to vent his anger, it would be unfair for him to get angry at young Master Nangongsi and you might feel wronged. So, I came here specifically as a punching bag. Chu Wanning glared at him and said coldly, I think you're here to cause trouble. When Song Kayutong, who was standing behind Nangongsi, heard this, she let out a soft laugh. She lifted up her feather-like eyelashes and walked out from behind her fiancé with a beautiful, charming face. She looked at Mo Ran and Chu Wanning and said gently, it has long been heard that Grandmaster Chu and Grandmaster Mo share a deep bond between them as a Shizun and his disciple. Today proves that it is so. End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 156. Shizun's great riding skills. Chu Wanning looked at her up and down. When he was in Xianyuan Pavilion, he felt that this person had the disposition that could topple nations. Now that he saw her up close, he found that she was even more beautiful, like a lotus flower, blooming under the morning sun, and her ebony hair seemed to shine brightly. The area surrounding her had a glowing aura. She was indeed a stunning beauty. No wonder Nangongsi liked her. As he thought of this, he could not help but stole a glance at Mo Ran, wondering how he would react to her. Unexpectedly, when he glanced at him, his eyes met Mo Ran's. Mo Ran didn't even look at Song Kayutong at all. It was as if Nangongsi was standing next to thin air. He was staring at him instead. Mo Ran smiled gently when their gazes met. Chu Wanning was stunned by his gaze, but he was still pretending to be calm. He exchanged a look with Mo Ran for a moment before turning his gaze away indifferently. Xiaoya courtyard is filled with many demonic wolves. The most valiant one is Nao Beijing. I also like it the most. Nangongsi led the crowd to the center of the empty meadow, took out the jade flute that was carried around his waist and blew 3 urgent whistles. After a moment of silence, a gust of wind blew from all directions in the distant forest. Then a snow-white figure leapt out of the forest like lightning. Almost only in the blink of an eye, a demon wolf with gleaming hair and golden claws leaped into the air, its body drawn in a smooth arc. It uttered a howl of a wood ash, which reflected the cold and desolate winter sky. And then leaned back down and stopped firmly in front of Nangongsi. Awoo! Nangongsi stepped forward and stroked its fluffy neck, turned his head and smiled. Grandmaster Chu, look, it has already grown so big. When you left, it was still a little kid. The year I left he was already as tall as a grown man. Chu Wanning said indifferently. Haha, is it? I always thought it was small and a cute cub. Grandmaster Chu, come ride with me and see. As Nangongsi spoke, he blew his flute again, summoning the 2 snow-white demon wolves from the woods. Grandmaster Mo, are you here to ride as well? The 3 of them jumped onto the back of the demon wolves. Nangongsi said, grasp the rope or neck hair and clamp your legs. It's almost the same as riding a horse. After he finished speaking, he lowered his head and said to Song Kayutong, Kayutong, ride with me. I'll take you with me. Chu Wanning originally thought that he would not be able to do it, but stepping onto the back of the demon wolf and trying to walk a few steps, he found that it wasn't difficult at all. Even more so because the demon wolf was a spiritual beast and could clearly understand the rider's mind, it was better and easier than controlling ordinary horses. Nangongsi laughed, how about it? Should we run a lap? Can I go anywhere here? Anywhere is fine. Feel free to run around the forest garden, at the back of the mountain or across the Xiaoya courtyard. Mo Ran smiled and said, is this going to be a contest? Why not? Chu Wanning glanced at Nangongsi who was riding with Song Kayutong on the demon wolf, thinking that this was an opportunity to enhance the feelings of the couple, and he readily agreed. Nangongsi smiled and removed a spirit stone bracelet from his wrist and said, in this case, we will first run to Ganquan Lake to the north of Lin Yuan and catch 5 groupers in it. The first person to return here will win. How about this chain as a prize for the winner? 7-star spirit stone chain, young Master Nangong is too generous. I'm just happy. But yes, it would be difficult to buy this with just 1,000 taels of gold. Nangongsi tightened his grip on the rope, then lowered his head to say to Song Kayutong, sit firmly and don't fall. If we're running too fast, just let me know. Mo Ran glanced at Song Kayutong, smiled and said, in this case, young Master Nangong might as well hand over the chain in advance. Ha, don't underestimate me. I grew up on a wolf's back. Bringing one more person is negligible. Even if I brought one more, it would be a trivial thing. Let's go. I'll count to 3 and 2, then start. 3, 2, 1. As soon as the voice faded, 3 snow-white figures shot out like feather arrows piercing through the forest. They stepped into the grassland in Xiaosha and instantly jumped to the hunting ground at the end, disappearing into the depths of the dense forest. Chu Wanning slowed down at the beginning and followed behind Nangongsi and Song Kayutong, but then Song Kayutong's screams came rushing towards him from time to time. After listening to it for a long time, his ears got tired as he couldn't bear the girls' cries. He couldn't help but speed up and surpass them. As the sudden cry of "Young Master, slow down," rang out behind him, Chu Wanning gradually felt some pleasure in riding a demon wolf. This type of spirit beast was so intelligent that he only needed to move his fingertips a little and Neo Bajan would understand his intentions and react immediately. It was no wonder that Nangongsi would care so much for these animals. The winter wind blew, but he didn't feel the cold. Chu Wanning raised his head and looked at the scattered and mottled sunlight that fell in front of him. It was a continuous, self-contained, and unending stream of sunlight that flowed like a torrent, rolling far away in the distance. He couldn't help but laugh. He felt that this rush was a joyous one, so he urged his onyx blonde wolf's feet to run wildly. Its wolf claws stepped on the thick coniferous forest and raised a billowing cloud of dust. Behind him, Mo ran, who was riding the black-clawed demon wolf, followed closely from the beginning to the end. In that split second, a sense of inexplicable comfort and relief arose in Chu Wanning's heart. Suddenly, he had an uncertain feeling that he finally had the power to move forward arbitrarily. It seemed that no matter where he went, there would be such footsteps behind him. Such a person would reverberate continuously and never separate. Chu Wanning arrived at Ganquan Lake almost at the same time as Mo ran, where it was full of blue waves. The lake was as clear as a calabash, rich in water and spirit energy. Nourished by the spirit flow on both sides of the lake, the trees and flowers were not affected by the four seasons. Despite being in winter season, the orange trees were still lush with leaves. Countless golden fruits were hidden behind the dark green leaves as the wind was filled with a sweet citrus fragrance. He landed firmly on the ground. Chu Wanning looked around and said, "It's quite a nice place with a lot of beautiful landscapes." Mo ran, holding onto the black-clawed demon wolf, walked over and asked with a smile, "Does Shizun likes it? Then when we go back, we can plant a lot of fruit trees at Shisheng Peak, keep it nourished with spiritual energy all year round and pick it whenever you want to eat its fruit." Chu Wanning gave a humph which was non-committal and walked to the lakeside, raising his hand to call Tianwen. Perceiving that something was wrong, Mo ran stopped him and asked, "What are you doing?" "Catching the fish." "Shizun shouldn't be thinking of using Tianwen to wring all the fish out of the lake, right? What are you thinking about?" Chu Wanning glared at him and tossed the golden vine into the lake with his hands and then said lightly towards the lake, "Are any of you tired of living? Those who wish to, go and take the bait." After saying this 3 times, Chu Wanning retracted Tianwen. On its golden leaves, there were actually some chubby fishes that looked up to the sky with their white eyes and spit bubbles. Chu Wanning took a look and asked Mo ran, "Did he say he wanted groupers?" "Yes." "Do you know what a grouper looks like?" After Chu Wanning finished speaking, he felt that asking this question would be a waste of time, so he simply picked up the whole of Tianwen and lifted up all the fishes for Mo ran to see. "Are there any in these? It's better if I do the fishing for Shizun." After that, Mo ran caught 10 fishes and placed them in the kinkan bag by the 2 demon wolves' necks. Chu Wanning took the few fish that don't want to live that he had just caught and put them back in the water carefully and said, "Life is too short, so I'll have to trouble you all to endure a little longer." Hearing such a sentence, Mo ran found that this man was both funny and cute. He put down the last grouper and turned around to see Chu Wanning walking towards the shore from the edge of the Ganquan Lake. The lake water was flowing behind him, immersing his white figure in gentleness and haziness. Suddenly, he had a strong desire in his heart. He wanted to walk over and hold Chu Wanning in his arms. He wanted to be intimate with him, wanted to touch him gently but crushed him against his chest at the same time. He wanted to pull him into the orange grove, press him against the tree, lift his legs and invade him indefinitely and vigorously. He watched as Chu Wanning got closer and closer to him. He was surprised to find that his desire was so contradictory and so strong that the softest and toughest kind of karma could even be born from an emperor. Love. Love. Isn't that what it looks like? Hard heat is the fiery fierce blade that cuts you open. Gentleness is the tenderness that envelopes you. Nangongsi is truly, Chu Wanning, however, did not notice the uncertainty in Mo Ran's eyes. He walked up to him and checked the kinkan bag on Neo Bajan's neck and continued. He brought a girl with him and ended racing so slowly. Maybe he's doing something else. Mo Ran felt his head burning. His wolf-like eyes were fixed on the white neck Chu Wanning had bare when he lowered his head. His abdomen was burning as he murmured in such a deep voice without thinking. Chu Wanning was stunned. Doing what? Mo Ran finally reacted and felt like he had misspoken. He coughed dryly, hoping that his thoughts didn't go too far. It's nothing. Chu Wanning, on the other hand, thought about it. His eyes widened suddenly as he squinted them dangerously and angrily said, "What are you thinking about? Get on the horse and go back." Mo Ran moved his lips, wanting to say, "It's not a horse, it's a wolf." But looking at Chu Wanning's sullen face and flushed airs, he swallowed his words. He watched with some regret as Chu Wanning swiftly rode on Neo Bajan, riding with unparalleled grace and beauty. He could not help but crave for more. He thought, if only Chu Wanning were his man, he would have been too weak to get on the horse or the wolf's back, so he could only get into his arms. Then he immediately felt shocked and guilty at the thought, so he shook his head subconsciously. This action happened to be seen by Chu Wanning, who asked, "What's the matter? Why did you shake your head? Did I say something wrong?" "No, no. Shizun had taught me the correctly. I was just thinking too much." However, he was not thinking about the ridiculous things that could be happening between Nangongsi and Songkayutong. "The person I am thinking of is you." Then, he thought, sigh, if only I could break the legs of that Neo Bajan. That way, if Chu Wanning had no wolf to ride, he might be willing to ride that black-clawed wolf with me. He really wanted to hug him again, like a person on the verge of death due to thirst, missing the sweet dew that he had once defiled by his very self. While Mo Ran was still indulged in these lingering thoughts, he followed Chu Wanning back to the Xiaoya courtyard, where he saw Songkayutong and Nangongsi already waiting. Songkayutong was sitting on the ground, her jade-like ankles stretched out with blood stains on them. It turned out that halfway through the course, she had forgotten that Nangongsi had warned her to tighten her leg. Therefore, her skin was cut through by the thorns. Even though it was only a minor injury, Nangongsi still wouldn't let her go and brought her back to treat it as soon as possible. Mo Ran glanced at her legs and feet. They could be considered beautiful, but compared to Chu Wanning, they were nothing. It was a shame that he still liked Songkayutong's feet in his previous life. How blind. Right now, he felt that everything about Chu Wanning was perfect, whether he was looking at things horizontally or vertically. Even his always cold and emotionless eyes that felt proud and reserved, or that temperament of his, he felt that Chu Wanning should only be like that. He was so pretty, so very pretty. Especially when he saw him glaring, scolding, or rolling his eyes at him, he felt overjoyed. "I am willing to admit defeat in the bet." Nangongsi was very exasperated. He casually handed over the gold chain to Chu Wanning of his own will. "Here, this is for Grandmaster." Chu Wanning looked at the chain and said, 7-star spirit stones are good for nourishing the spiritual cores. I really need it, thank you very much." Mo Ran felt unhappy upon hearing the words and inexplicably muttered, "Next time, I'll buy you a better one." "What?" Chu Wanning did not hear him clearly and turned back to look at him. Mo Ran saw his pair of phoenix eyes that were so close to him and the clear reflection of his face in his eyes. The distance between them made the bitter feeling in his heart slightly fade. Mo Ran said with a smile, "I said, the next time I see something more suitable for Shizun, I will buy it for Shizun." "All right." Chu Wanning agreed without hesitation, which made Mo Ran even more happy. He even went so far as to look at Nangongsi, who didn't care about this at all. Secretly still competing with him and triumphantly wanting to let him know, Shizun would politely thank you for taking your things, but not me for taking mine. Look, he wasn't even distancing himself from me. But then Chu Wanning said, Just remember to ask the sect leader to give you the bill and I'll give you the money at that time. Mo ran. 10 freshwater groupers were taken out of the kinkan bag. Nangongsi took them to the hunting cabin on the side of Xiaoya courtyard. There was a grey-black furnace outside, and pots and pans were all available, but the cabin looked old and mottled, which didn't seem like it was built at the same time as the magnificent pasture. Chu Wanning's fingertips brushed over the fence, stopping in front of a bundle of rope tied to the fence. The ropes had experienced countless winds and rain, and they no longer looked as good as it did before. Nangongsi took the seasoning and came out of the wooden cabin. Seeing Chu Wanning looking at the rope, he smiled and said, "That was the year the Grand Master left. The ones I tied here, they are almost all gone." Chu Wanning did not say anything. He just sighed gently and sat down on the low stool made of wooden stakes. When he was serving the Rufeng sect, Nangongsi was still just a child. He often brought him to the Xiaoya courtyard to walk around, leaving behind this cabin. The fire soon started, the grouper was grilled on the branches of the fruit trees and the plump fish fat dripped from under the charred and crispy flesh, exuding a rich smell of fish meat. Nangongsi gave 6 pieces to the demon wolves squatting next to the wooden fence, while the other 4 were sprinkled with salt to be distributed among the people. After only a few bites, Song Kayutong handed the grilled fish to Nangongsi, who had already quickly finished gnawing on the whole fat fish. She said, "I can't eat any more. Young master, can I share some with you?" Chu Wanning glanced at their direction and saw that Nangongsi had taken the grilled fish and happily ate the second one. He thought to himself that this Song Kayutong seemed to be well behaved and gentle, a very considerate person, quite unlike the rumors he had heard. Really, rumors shouldn't be taken seriously. While he was deep in thought, a lotus leaf was handed over to him. The top part of the fish was carefully divided into fine parts and the main fish bones had been removed. The white and tender meat was exuding heat and burnt fragrance. Chu Wanning was taken aback for a moment. He turned his head and saw Mo Ran putting away his silver short dagger. He smiled and said, "Shizun, let's eat this. When did you get the lotus leaves?" "Just now, when I was catching fish by the lake, I picked them along the way." Mo Ran passed the fish meat to him. "Eat while it's hot. It won't taste good when it's cold." Chu Wanning took the lotus leaf, his heart rippled as he said, "Thank you." He really did not like taking out fish bones, so the treated grouper melted immediately in his mouth. Chu Wanning ate them piece by piece, enjoying the meal. After he finished eating all of them, the tea that was hung over the fire had also boiled up. Song Kayutong got up and took off the iron kettle, pouring a cup for everyone and served it to them with both hands. "Grand Master Chu, please have a cup of tea." Her slender jade hand was holding a small white porcelain cup, her arms were like a bright moon and there was a bit of cinnabar between her wrists. Chu Wanning suddenly recalled that back at the Xianyuan Pavilion auction, the pavilion master said that she had a cinnabar mark lit up on her wrist by the Hanlin divine hands. Presumably, it was this one. Having recalled that and seeing that the cinnabar mark was still there, then the matter of Song Quitong and Ye Wangzi having an affair is indeed nonsense. Chu Wanning finally heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Nangongsi was a pure and unrestrained person, like a wild horse on the prairie, like a lone wolf walking on its own, with a simple and vigorous blade and axe. Chu Wanning did not dislike such a person and so he did not wish for Nangongsi to be unlucky. When Song Kayutong served tea to Mo Ran, he accepted it but did not drink it. He placed it aside, smiled and said, "Miss Song, I have something for you." End chapter. Dumb Husky and his white cat Shizun. Chapter 157. Shizun, that wedding night, I actually. As he spoke, he took out a thin bracelet. The chain was brilliant, made up of mother of pearl from the East China Sea and Zai crystal from Zhurong Mountain. From a glance, one could tell that this bracelet was quite expensive. I have received your letter wherein you have requested for the Wangsha crystal. Unfortunately, my cousin had already used that spiritual stone to refine his sword. I didn't get the chance to prepare any other gift, so I just bought this water and fire attributed chain. It should be suitable for you to wear. This is too expensive. This Kayutong is afraid that she cannot accept this. How can there be a reason for not accepting this gift? Moran laughed. Not to mention this water and fire attributed chain can also suppress the fire elemental spiritual energy, though it is only suitable for women to wear. If you wear it on your body whenever you are in the company of young Master Nangong, the spiritual flow of the chain would be beneficial for him as well. This is a good thing for both of you. Song Kayutong turned to look at Nangong Si, who nodded to signify his approval. She then received the chain with both hands, bowed respectfully and said softly, "Thank you, Grand Master Mo." The four of them drank tea, sat and chatted for a while. Chu Wanning was concerned about this major event in Nangong Si's life, so he advised him to pay more attention to his bride and to ensure that all the details of the wedding ceremony have been arranged properly so no mishap would occur. Nangong Si drank the tea in 2 gulps, tossed the empty cup in his hand and then smiled as he said, "Grand Master, don't worry. I go and see her every night. I'm not the same as when I was a child. I know there are some things that need to be paid attention to. In fact, yesterday I found that Kayutong's dress was missing an inlaid pearl, so I immediately found someone to rework on it." When he spoke about the wedding ceremony, a hint of shyness appeared on his usually carefree and unrestrained face. He glanced at Song Kayutong and smiled. "Kayutong will definitely look very beautiful then." These words fell into the ears of Song Kayutong's husband in his previous life. Moran absent-mindedly poured another cup of tea for himself. Of course, he knew Song Kayutong was a beauty with peerless grace, but so what? Back then, Sunyang Peak presented offerings to the heavens, and the cultivation emperor Taxian Jun welcomed the first empress of the cultivation world through marriage. The night of his wedding was shining brightly with the light of Phoenix candle, but he had never stayed in his new home. That night, he had drank too much. The red candle's smoke was dense as he fell in a drowsy state. He titled the bride's flushed and shy face, staring at it for a while. Before a major ceremony in life, people are always prone to be drowned in emotions of the passage of time and the vicissitudes of life. Even Taxian Jun was no exception. He suddenly felt that everything seemed unreal. His gaze seemed to penetrate through the beautiful and charming red light in front of him and landed onto the blizzard of many years ago. When he was naked in the cold wind. When he was about to die of starvation and thirst and was being pitted, licking the rice soup that the man bought him. When he first came to Shisheng Peak, anxious and fearful of what was ahead. When he stood on tiptoe and went to pluck the haitang blooming under the moon. When he kneeled in front of Chu Wanning, with the golden vines wrapped around his body. He had never imagined that one day he would trample over all cultivators to gain the respect of the world. "Husband, what are you thinking about?" Her red lips were slightly parted, her eyes focused on him, and the breath she exhaled was all sweet and extravagant, just like his lofty status of today. He seemed to have everything. Beauty, status, power. Why does he still feel so dissatisfied? He couldn't think of anything unsatisfying, but he felt very empty. He felt as if his whole person was standing at the peak of a steep cliff, surrounded by faces that was low and blurry. He walked through these fawning faces. They eulogized him, praised him, they knelt to meet him, flattered him, and they looked exactly the same. He heard someone calling to him in an extremely alluring manner with a voice that was soft and tender like the petals of a peony, "Husband! Husband!" Suddenly, he felt sick and disgusted. He tried to get away from the tidal wave of his admirers, but the sweet voice engulfed him like sugary syrup. He violently pushed Song Kayutong away. The delicate bride was pushed viciously as she crouched down on the crimson dragon and phoenix bed. Her head full of golden and silver jade and emeralds was trembling as she stepped unsteadily, encased within the beaded illusions. Mo Ran felt that everything was so distorted, so unreal. As if that golden light was like a ghost fire and the bright red candle was like bloody tears. He felt so disgusted, but he didn't know who he was disgusted with, Song Quitong or the him who had become like this. He rushed out of the door. In his last life, very few people in the world knew that on the day of the grand wedding of the cultivation Emperor Taxian Jun, Empress Song Quitong was left out in the cold. Still in his golden red wedding robes, Mo Ran pushed open the door of the Red Lotus Pavilion. He walked in and after a while, the candle in the pavilion went out and Song Kayutong's newly-wed husband stayed in there for the entire night. It wasn't until the evening of the second day that Xue Meng rushed to Shisheng Peak and stirred up trouble. Mo Ran then lazily opened the door, tidying up his scattered clothes and strolled to the front hall with a look of obscene contentment. What happened in the Red Lotus Pavilion that night was something that no one else knew about. After bidding farewell to the couple, Chu Wanning and Mo Ran returned to their courtyard. Chu Wanning suddenly asked indifferently, "Just now, when Nangong Si said that Song Kayutong was good-looking, what were you doing while staring at others in a daze?" Mo Ran said, "I was thinking about the way she would look in a wedding dress." Chu Wanning, still steeped in a burst of jealousy, raised his sleeve and gave it a slight brush, his face extremely cold as he said, "Do not think of molesting someone else's fiancée. What is there to think about?" Mo Ran smiled and said, "Who said I was thinking about her? I was thinking about the way she would look in her wedding dress and how she wouldn't even look half as beautiful as Shizun. In a wedding dress." He was just about to vent his anger, but he was caught off guard by being licked by the little wolfhound. Chu Wanning's face turned pale, then red, and he couldn't utter a decent word for a long time. Finally, he waved his sleeves and said, "That absurdity of the ghost mistress illusion, you shouldn't bring up that ridiculous matter again." Mo Ran sighed in his heart. "It's not that I want to bring it up. It was you who had asked. I just didn't like to lie to you, and yet I get scolded by praising your beauty. However, seeing you being this spirited makes me feel very pleasant for some reasons." When he thought about how he had lost him before, he felt like being scolded like this is like being immersed in a candy jar. Chu Wanning. "What to do, I can't help but yearn for you." The days passed quickly. Then it's only one day before Nangong Si's wedding. The Rufeng sect was already filled with guests from all over the realm, whether they were sect leaders of major sects, normal cultivators, or wealthy merchants without spiritual energy. All of them arrived early on this day in front of the main city. For a moment, the city was covered with clouds like a canopy, the carriages and horses weaved on the road while men and women dressed in luxurious clothing flowed in like an endless stream. Xue Meng was dragged along by his father to greet those female cultivators who were about the same age as him. "Master Wang, it's been a long time since I've seen you. It's fortunate that I have come across you today. Aya, isn't this little Manchuo? You've grown so big and beautiful. Come on, Xue Meng, come and say hello to your Uncle Wang." Xue Meng reluctantly moved over and said, "Greetings, Wang Dabo." Xue Zhenyang slapped him on the back of his head with a smile on his face. However, he was gritting his teeth as he said, "It's Wang Bobo, not Wang Dabo. Ha ha ha, it's the same. It's all the same to me. The proud son of heaven is really handsome, just like his father. Old Xue, you're so lucky." After a while, Xue Meng was pushed along with little Manchuo to stroll in the garden. Little Manchuo was 16 this year, a sweet age, but this person seemed a little cold. After walking together with Xue Meng for a while, she said, "Young Master Xue, you should understand the meaning behind our elders pushing us out together." "Yes. But as I said, it's okay to take a walk. It's just that young Master Xue has such a disposition that I really don't like. So don't expect anything else." "Oh. Huh." Xue Meng was shocked. He suddenly halted on his step, his face was ashen as he waited for little Manchuo. The little wildflower lifted her chin in a rather haughty manner, and with what seemed to be a demonstration of her strength, He looked at Xuemeng and coldly said, I have my own possessions. Even if you fall in love with me. Are you sick? Xuemeng exploded, me. He pointed on himself with a finger, his face was shocked, fall for you. Why else would you be pulling me down a deserted path? It could only be because you have something on your mind, right? Why didn't you say that there is a hole in your brain? Xuemeng's temper flared up in an instant. He was furious and his eyes burst with fire as he repeated, me like you. Me like you? What are you doing by saying so many times that you like me? You pervert. Little Manchuo was very rigid, stomped her foot on the ground, raised her head and slapped Xuemeng on the face. Xuemeng was already so angry that his vision was spinning. To be slapped by this tender and delicate hand for no reason, he felt like vomiting out a few more mouthfuls of blood. If not for the fact that Madame Wang had taught him how to be courteous to ladies, he would probably have smashed little Manchuo into the ground and turned her into a trumpet flower. Right at this moment, a man with light eyes and a high nose bridge walked over from afar. When little Manchuo saw him, she was stunned at first. Then, tears filled his eyes in an instant and with a sweet voice cried out, Young Master Mei. She ran straight towards the man. The man who was walking over was none other than Mei Hangxiu. He did not expect to come across other people on such a remote path. He was obviously startled for a while, but seeing little Manchuo rushing towards him, he raised his hand and threw down a barrier coursing with the powers of lighting. The enchantment slammed the girl out. The girl was caught off guard. She was hit by the force of the lightning and fell to the ground. Mei Hangxiu didn't intend to help her either. He looked down at her, frowning as he said, Miss, you have recognized the wrong person. How could I be wrong? I couldn't be wrong. That year, you promised me a golden scented sachet, saying that it would be hard to forget me after our meeting. You said that when I turned 18, you will come to marry me. Have you forgotten all of it? Mei Hangxiu. Young Master Mei. You really got the wrong person. Mei Hangxiu didn't say anything further. He shook his head as the through such sentence, then walked past the crying girl. Xuemeng witnessed the scene, feeling felt both infuriated and relieved. Infuriated because Mei Hangxiu really was a flirtatious bastard and truly did not recognize people once he put his pants back on. No wonder that he only dared to take the small paths on such circumstances. Relieved because he did not expect that the one little Manchuo liked was actually Mei Hangxiu. Mei Hangxiu, as his name implies, was fickle and ruthless. It has been said that he presented completely different faces before and after hooking up with a woman, and little Mantu being in love with him, was really her bad luck of 8 lifetimes. Mei Hangxiu walked up to him and squinted his light-colored glass-like eyes. He looked at him sideways for a moment. Xuemeng thought to himself, what are you looking at? How dare you look at me like this? You are renowned throughout the world for your love affairs, while my name is renowned throughout the world for my prestige. I won't lose in terms of dominance. So, he proudly raised his head and swept his eyes sideways over Mei Hangxiu from head to toe to head. He was prepared to make a rather dignified and contemptuous snort when the two of them were completely cross-shouldered. Why is your face swollen? Unexpectedly, Mei Hangxiu paused, walking halfway. He stopped and stood in front of him from a short distance away. He looked at him faintly and said, the swelling is quite unique. Xuemeng got stumped for a while, but he still could not stop himself from letting out an indignant, humph. Mei Hangxiu. Xuemeng's face flushed rapidly. He turned his head abruptly as his killing intent surged. What does it had to do with you? I accidentally fell when I walked. Then you should watch your step a little while walking. Mei Hangxiu said calmly, it's not easy to fall like that. After saying that, he left, leaving Xuemeng to stand there for a while. Then Xuemeng jumped in anger and said, Mei Hangxiu. You son of a bitch. You wait for me. You and I are irreconcilable. Feeling greatly aggrieved, Xuemeng ran out from the garden with red eyes. He ran so fast that he suddenly bumped into a person's chest. Xuemeng was furious and cursed, "What the hell? Do you not use your eyes when you walk?" As soon as he raised his head, he saw a tall and elegant man clad in green robes. His clothes were embroidered with golden silk threads of Palya pattern, with Guyui's sapphire crown on his head and 2 long and soft eyelashes that fell before his eyes. When he raised his eyes, he saw the hazy Jiangnan's misty rain, a face that would captivate one's soul. The man pushed Xuemeng aside and adjusted his clothes. He seemed to be in a bad mood. His slender fingers smoothed out the wrinkles on his front. Xuemeng was stunned for a moment when he saw the silver ring with a black tortoise shell on his index finger. Jiangxi, the sect leader of Guyuye sect, the richest man in the world, Jiangxi. This person was about the same age as Xue Zhenyang, but with the difference in their cultivation methods, Jiangxi's appearance is like that of a 20-year-old. This person was rich and noble, and his appearance was extremely beautiful. He was really one favored by the heavens. At the Lingshan sword discussion, Jiangxi was missing among the top 10 sect leaders. At that time, Xuemeng was thinking of how does this missing man look like. Seeing him today was a great surprise for him, and he could help but be shocked. He stared at the other man with his eyes wide open. Jiangxi's face was calm, but it was still evident that he was not in a good temper. You can call the name of a sect leader just like that? It's preposterous. Hearing these words, Xuemeng felt that the humiliation he felt now was 100 times greater than the humiliation he received from Mei Hangxiu. He immediately said angrily, "What's the matter? Is one not allowed to be called by their name just because they're older? Is it a must for me to call you sect leader? Even Nangonglu does not have such arrogance. How unruly." Jiangxi said sensibly. "Whose disciple are you? Why should I answer whenever you ask something? Who do you think you are? Just because a group of monkeys listen to your commands in Guyuye doesn't mean everybody else would. I won't tell you. I think you're just a Meng heir." Suddenly, a soft voice sounded. Xuemeng abruptly stopped his ranting and looked behind him, avoiding Jiangxi. It was unknown when Madame Wang had walked over, but she had probably heard Xuemeng's unruly confrontation just now, so her face was quite pale and somewhat anxious. She quickly stopped him and said, "Meng heir, stop talking. Come here to your mother." Xuemeng glared viciously at Jiangxi and walked towards Madame Wang as he respectfully lowered his head. "Mother." Jiangxi stood on the same spot for a while before slowly turning around, squinting his eyes. Those eyes of his, which were obviously beautiful to behold, were actually flickering with a sinister light. He looked at the mother and son standing side by side at a distance and said coldly, "Oh, so this is the darling of the heavens, the good son of Xue Zhenyang. Xuemeng. Madame Wang." Jiangxi's eyelashes trembled for a moment before he closed his eyes. When he opened them again, his eyes were filled with ridicule, as expected of Xue Zhenjiang's kind. What an admirable self-restraint. "You are not allowed to insult my father. Meng heir." Madame Wang immediately grabbed him and pulled him behind her. Then, with a pale face, she bowed slightly to Jiangxi and said of Xuemeng, "Xuemeng, my son is just too willful. I hope sect leader Zhang will not take offense." "Heh, sect leader Zhang." Jiangxi was like a venomous snake, soaking the 3 words between his moist lips and teeth for a while before swallowing them down slowly. He then continued, "It's all right. At least he has half of your blood, Shija. Taking into consideration your seniority, I can recognize him as my nephew. Who wants to be your nephew? Look at that ugly face of yours. Screw off. Meng heir." Jiangxi smiled coldly, staring at Xuemeng for a moment before shifting his gaze to Madame Wang's face. Madame Wang lowered her eyes and said, "Sect leader, please stop joking. I am no longer a Guyuye's disciple. How can I continue to talk about seniority with the sect leader? all right. Jiang Shi nodded and replied coldly, all right, very good. Seeing the son of an old friend today has really broadened my horizons. I don't know where Shishang Peak is or how you people raise children in Shishang Peak, but I can conclude that over there, a pristine white magnolia can also be stained with mud. Jiangxi. Try fucking saying that again. I'll tear your mouth apart. When Xuemeng heard this man insulted his mother right in front of him, his blood rushed over to his head immediately, and he was about to rush forward desperately. Madame Wang couldn't hold him back, seeing that the situation had got out of control. Suddenly, a loud noise was heard from up the sky. A bright firework exploded, bells and drums rumbled. The ceremonial officer of the Rufeng sect announced the following across 72 cities in an instant with sound amplification: the welcoming banquet for the hundreds of families will be held at the Hall of Poetry and Music at the same time. We invite all the distinguished guests to please enjoy our presentation. Jiang Shi coldly glanced at Xuemeng, flicked his sleeves, then turned around and left. End chapter.